Thank you, Tony. Yeah, looking forward to a great opportunity here this week. We know going on the road in the SEC, playing at night, is never easy. It's going to be a great challenge. A game that's important to both of us, and a South Carolina team that's very good, coming off a tough loss. So I'm sure they'll be amped up, and our team will be prepared and ready to go. We had a good week of practice last week, and looking forward to getting back at it today.
Looking at Cutter as QB1 on the depth chart, is that an indication of Zach's health, or do you just believe he's the best going forward?
It is what it is. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things, but Zach has not been 100% to this point.
What in that Eastern Michigan game showed you that there's a lot to build on good with what Cutter can do?
I think, I think you know this by watching us very closely for the last year and a half. Cutter's done some really good things, and you've heard me talk about him many different times. We've watched him play in other games and show flashes, and we've been very confident in Cutter. And I've also told him the whole time, you're going to get your opportunity. It's about what you do and how you play when you get that opportunity. I thought he did some very good things in this last game. It's a lot to build on, and he's getting more confident. He's getting more comfortable with every rep.
What are the challenges for him in particular in that road night game atmosphere?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, going on the road in the SEC is difficult. We know playing at South Carolina, William Bryce, I mean, that place is incredible. What a great atmosphere. It's always a real challenge, and I think it's about us and it's about our operation. For him, to play in a hostile environment like that, we got to have people play well around him, and we got to really work it this week, with the silent count and crowd noise and all those things.
Part of the young quarterback decision making is one of the things you occasionally worry about. How did he do in that part in Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, I thought he did a very good job. I mean, it's easy for all of us to watch the film afterwards and dissect it and maybe have some opportunities that were there that maybe were missed. But overall, he was very comfortable. He's very confident, and he played well.
When you talk about the people around Cutter playing well, what is it specifically that you're looking for going into South Carolina for them to do?
We have to play clean. We've done a very good job this year of protecting the football. I think we have one fumble, one interception, and we've got to continue to protect the ball. The operation has to be good, as far as pre-snap penalties and things of that nature, just the communication as a whole. Offensive line, I think it starts there. We have to give some protection. We know South Carolina can harass the quarterback. We have to give him some time, and we have to have some balance as well.
Dylan Stewart at edge really wrecked things last year as a true freshman. Mm-hmm. Are there things you can do schematically to try to help out with that guy?
Well, I mean, at times, and then there's times when you just have to win. We have to give him enough time. You always have to be very aware where he's at and have a plan. But again, you can't do that on every snap. There's going to be one-on-one matchups, and we have to hold our own.
Mark, through 3 games, what's been your assessment of Willie Rodriguez?
Yeah, Willie is a very good football player that's done a good job. That's getting better. He's still very young. You got a guy that's playing with him in Caddis that's playing at a high level. The combination of the two, I want to say it's in the neighborhood of 14 catches or somewhere in there. So they've done a nice job.
Has the scheme of the South Carolina offense changed drastically with Shula calling the plays versus Waggins? South Carolina's offensive scheme?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but there's a lot of things that carry over. I think it's very easy to see that the offense running through Lenoris, right? I mean, he's just a dynamic player, just an extremely talented player, very good. I think, you watch him in the pocket with a clean pocket, and you see the way he throws the football and the velocity that he has on it and the accuracy, very impressive. We all know what he can do on his feet, with either design runs or when things break down, he is so big and so strong, that he's tough. He's good in a lot of ways. So, play calling, there's obviously going to be some difference, but there's a lot of things that carry over as well.
Mark, in this series, Clayton White's been there. You've had some struggles just kind of scoring.
Pardon me?
Since Clayton White has got there at South Carolina, defensive coordinator, scoring, I think y'all have 5 touchdowns in 4 games. Just what do they do, and what kind of challenges do they bring on that side?
I don't go back looking at the 4 games in particular, but they're a good team. They last year, I think, was the game that stood out. It was just protection. They had some guys that wrecked it, and pressure was a big thing. I think, last year, that was I think it was the first SEC game for us, and going into that matchup, we didn't know exactly who, how we would hold up, and I think we found a lot out in that game that was a tough matchup for us. And so, to your point earlier, do what you can do and find some ways to chip and protect and not let those guys just wreck a game. But overall, South Carolina, they've always been good matchups. They've always played very aggressive, extremely impressive up front. In particular, if you're going back to the past, last year they had good, really good cover guys. A lot of those guys returned, and the guys up front, I don't think enough was talked about last year with their interior players, and the same this year. Very disruptive, but last year they had some very experienced guys that were there for a long time to go with the game wreckers on the edge.
Mark, last week, Missouri had some good rushing numbers against South Carolina. You talk about playing well around Cutter. How much does your rushing game contribute to playing well around him?
Well, I think that's obviously a point of emphasis, that balance. You've heard me say it 2,000 times probably, but you have to have some balance, and you go back again to the previous games. If we're not able to run the ball, and you have to drop back and pass, and that was a area of concern a year ago in particular. So we have to have the balance. The run game, it always starts there with us.
Sellers is obviously a different kind of athlete, but you've faced some pretty mobile quarterbacks so far. Has there been good tape to give your rushers a good feel for what to?
Yes, and it's also very difficult. He's different. He's definitely different, because he's one of those guys that if you sit back there and you give him the time, he will dissect you. So he can certainly throw the ball very accurate. It's a little different when you're playing a guy that is very, very talented in both, throwing the ball and running.
Mark, what's been your assessment of Joshua Braun?
Josh has been very solid. He's a great leader, very big, very strong, very steady, and so we're very grateful that we have him. He's been a great addition and very good player.
Mark, I know Beamer Ball it's kind of like built its own brand, but what do they do with their return game where it feels like they can always pull one out of a hat? Yeah, very, very impressive. Just overall special teams, that's Shane's expertise. They're very good in all phases. They really are. In the return game with Swain, he's been very dynamic with 3 touchdowns, pretty impressive in 4 games. So. They're just good. They're well coached. They play extremely hard, and they're good units across the board.
Talking about special teams, how would you maybe assess the Cats' special teams so far this season, and how confident are you that Kendrick, Jamori can maybe break one this year, or Ty Brown, I should say?
We've been very good, very solid. It'll be a great challenge here this week on the road. Playing South Carolina, as we just mentioned, how good they are in the special teams in all phases. This will be the biggest test of the year for us. So we need to continue to play well. I've been very impressed with our cover units, our protection, and our kickers have been very good so far. And again, great opportunity and great test here this week.
Have you seen Cutter grow as a leader and doing all this thing?
Yeah, I think those come, just through reps and through times and authentically. He is definitely a leader. I think I think it's always, a learning process, with a young quarterback and as you bring him along. But Cutter is very likable. The kids believe in him. They were excited last week. No reflection of Zach or anything. As I mentioned, if anybody gets hurt, we never want to see that. But I think, players were excited to watch Cutter and to see what he can do, and he'll have another opportunity here this week.
Coach White was obviously not pleased with the performance against Eastern Michigan during the bye week. What did you see from your defense, and how are you feeling heading into this game?
Yeah, we just need to play better. We just need to be more fundamental. Play cleaner. Be in position. Generally, we're a good tackling team when we're in good position on the football, and so we'll be tested here this week and need to play better.
Mark, do you think you're going to get the two guys at cornerback this week?
I hope so. Yeah, yeah, that's the plan.
You said Zach's still not 100% out, but it's not like do you think it's a long-term injury, or is he going to be back to where you can play with something?
Yeah. Why you always got to massage me into talking about that? You try to do it very, yeah, I get it. We'll see. Anytime you're dealing with an arm with a quarterback, I mean, you have to be smart and cautious and make sure he's healthy.
Mark, in terms of the tackling on the perimeter, in the off week, I assume that was a big point of emphasis. Did it look better?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and it's very hard to simulate that. We did do a very good amount of good against good, where we're playing fastball, so we get pushed and tested, but we're still not going down to the ground, so, we generally through the years have been pretty sound and pretty fundamental. We play very good people, and that's only going to improve, starting this week. So when you're playing dynamic guys, you got to have a bunch of people around the football and be in great position.
Or I know you talked about changing things up for the bye week last week, but is there something that you can see in practice that gives you a good sense about where the team's head's at going into a game?
I think that sometimes you could feel that. Sometimes it comes out of nowhere, good or bad. You can't always see it. I've been very pleased with this team. I've told you over and over, but it's true. I like their attitude. I like their work ethic. They want to be good. And so I think areas of improvement last week, very businesslike. We did a lot of good against good to get the tempo up. I like the way we practiced. I think this team is eager to improve, and we have a great opportunity in front of us here this week. And we're going to get out there today, and they've been off for the weekend, and so we'll do a little bit more with it than a typical Monday and get them moving.
Mark, you cited the 13 catches for the two tight ends earlier. We asked you about that basically every preseason. If we tight ends, we're going to get the ball more. Do you feel like there's a reason that has happened this year in particular, that that's the way it's worked out?
When we're drawing up plays, I mean, sometimes you don't know where the ball's going to go all the time. You really don't, and so, it's worked out that way. They're good players, they really are. They've made tough catches. Josh has really made some competitive catches, so that's a credit to him. But it's some of it is where the ball goes. I think you could see I think it was last week, the long catch, was off schedule play, and he made a tough catch, and he had a couple more of those, through the year that were very close that he didn't bring down. But he's been competitive. I think we know they're good players, but sometimes the ball goes there, and sometimes it doesn't.
Have you had to use them as extra blockers less this year because the offensive line's better? Or is
No, same.
You mentioned that off-schedule play down to Caddis, and when you look at the wide view, you see he's got Willie wide open down there, but he decides to go for the 30-whatever yard gain. Is there just something innate with Cutter where he does really want to tend to push the ball down the field more? Is he overly aggressive?
Well, I think Zach does as well. Maybe, both of them. I think when you're getting out there and you're off schedule, it's very hard to see everything, very clear. So, I'm not sure. We'll see as time goes by. But, I like the location that Cutters throws some of those footballs.
How much can it just help the offense when that explosiveness can be a regular part of it, those 30, 40-yard plays?
Well, I think, as you know, I mean, we need that. I mean, you know, offenses are much more effective when you get to chunk plays, so we need to continue to work on that.
Coach, I know you spot the ball and play anybody, but maybe try to take it as a fan perspective with the permanent opponents kind of being leaked this morning, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee. Maybe your thoughts on that?
I really have no comment. I've got my hands full. If you haven't noticed, I've got a lot going on, and you know, I've heard different things, different reactions. You know, I think those are opponents we've played for a long time, so people are very familiar with them. And you know, I think you've heard me say it over and over again: put the ball down and let's play. Those decisions are made way above my pay grade, so it is what it is.
Coach, for you, you've seen Seth McGowan's role kind of grow week after week, and especially against Eastern Michigan. You saw him get 3 touchdowns. You've seen his prowess in the rush game, but how do you guys kind of want to get him going into the passing game as well, kind of getting him out of it?
Yeah, we missed a screen last week to him that was set up fairly well. He's a guy that you get the ball in his hands and good things can happen. Seth is emerging as one of our, you know, more dynamic players on the offensive side of the ball, and you know, it doesn't surprise us. We've been confident in him and talked, you know, a lot about him, you know, since he arrived. He's a very good football player. You know, he's playing at a good level right now, and hopefully he'll continue that.
Anyone else?
After maybe struggling to run the ball a bit last year due to maybe some injuries, how nice is it to kind of get back to the way you guys used to play a couple years back?
Well, I think it's, you know, very important. That's no secret. You've heard me say it for a long time. I think, you know, our offensive line is playing much better, and you know, certainly the backs are playing at a very high level as well. We have some very good backs that we have a lot of confidence in as well.
Mark, Khalil Saunders has seemed to play at a really high level. Did you see that coming, like in the camp, that he had sort of gone to a higher level?
Yeah, definitely. He was one of the guys that I've talked about, you know, early on that I just wanted him to be consistent, but he has definitely worked very hard to put him in that position. And, you know, not only on the field but off, he's becoming more of a leader. You know, he's grown up quite a bit. We're very proud of him. He's playing very well, and we need him to continue as well. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.